It's tradition here, I hear, to take some questions or in light of the sermon, or maybe it has nothing to do with that. And it's a good sign. I answered them all. Yeah.
It's kind of a two-part question, but first, is the church that you came from in support of what you're doing, or no? And also, the Colwood Church, right?
Yeah.
I looked them up a little bit, and it looks like they're part of United Brethren in Christ, which my impression of that is that they're not Reformed. And it seems, so is part of your leaving there like a theological divergence with that group, or?
Yeah. So I was there for 7 years, and I was hired. It was April of 2011 we moved from there. I was doing a church planting in internship type thing in Macon, Georgia, with an Acts 29 church, and my friend was the worship pastor there, and he said, "We need an executive, someone like you." And I said, "Okay, all right." So we wanted to be back north. My family's in southern Michigan. My wife's family's in Hershey, so close to here. And we ended up taking the position we were really excited about the people that we met. We loved the people there. I truthfully wasn't entirely sure how that was going to work out, because the person who hired me, who was the lead pastor, was way more into the attractional church. You know, we need a fog machine, we need loud rock music. So we were kind of hesitant to walk into that, but we felt like God really made that clear to us. Well, lo and behold, after 2 months, I become the lead pastor. So God kind of just set that up on a tee, I guess, in his sovereignty. So it was one of those things where the denominational ties then weren't that great. And so here I am, I come in, I'm a Reformed believer, and they're pretty much open-handed about it. In fact, the UB was founded by a Mennonite farmer and a Reformed German preacher. So they're pretty tolerant about it. Definitely had some doctrinal disagreements there, big time. But it wasn't anything that I felt like I needed to worry about today. And maybe it's something I could worry about later, you know. So yeah, we were there 7 years, and the church is supporting us in the sense that they're happy. We still have great connections there. They really weren't in a position to financially necessarily support us full time or anything like that. But many of the people there have given to our work, and so we're super grateful. We hope to be able to go back and visit next year at some point, and give time for a transition sort of thing. And yeah, I think I answered those two questions. Yeah. Any kids have a question? Go ahead. No question. Yeah.
Are they meeting right now?
Yeah. So we're Warrenton is the town we're planting in. Right now we're meeting in Jordan and Shelby's living room. It's been a comfortable place. But we're also kind of sensing that need to get into a more public space. So we're trying to do that. I actually just was informed last week, that the building we're hoping to get, they don't really do a long-term contractual agreement, but I have a list of others that we're trying to get. And so being 2 months old and only having a few families, we're looking for something super cheap. Maybe they'll pay us to take it. I don't know. That would be ideal. Maybe. It may be run down. We'll see. So we have some other options we're looking at, and hopefully we can get something soon. Yeah. Some other like future plans. We have a connection with an investor. We're looking at maybe starting a school. It's very early in those plans. We certainly have the desire to do something of that nature, which would be great if we could, because then we could meet there, sort of like what you're doing here. So maybe we can kill two birds with one stone with that. Certainly that would be ideal. But again, some of those are more long-term, and truthfully, right now we're spending a lot of time just getting established in the community. We want to do the work of abolition, so we have been going to some abortion mills and Planned Parenthood, and we want to obviously be involved in that. We also have some great connections with, there's a church in Appomattox, you guys might know Paul Michael Raymond. His son, Christian, we've connected with. He's very active in the political scene in Virginia. So we have the audacity to believe that we're going to take over. So we want to get to know people and kind of influence the political arena, hopefully as well. And some of those are long term. Truthfully, we were talking about a little bit last night with Seth. Just like we're thinking long term. So kids, you are the future of Christendom. So just kind of know that right now while you color with your crayons. No big deal. You'll be fine. Jesus is Lord. You can do it all. Yeah. Any other questions or comments or Lucas?
How you talk about how you're kind of adjusting.
Yeah.
How you guys are doing?
Yeah.
It's a big move, big transition.
Big transition. So, just to give you a very nutshell version of this to sort of set the stage, I grew up on a dirt road in southern Michigan. My first job was baling hay, so I know that. I moved to Philadelphia to go to Bible college several years ago, and that's where I met my wife. So there was a big adjustment. Elijah's our oldest there. He was born while we were out in Philly, and then we moved to Michigan to take that job, and that was very much a more rural setting. And so we've been in kind of both worlds, but our kids, we certainly need prayer. We had some good friends of ours from Michigan moved too. So that was exciting. They're really good friends. Our kids are friends with their kids, sort of thing. And but adjusting is it's hard, changing what you know for so long, and certainly would love your prayers on that. And the nice thing is my in-laws are in Hershey, so we are only less than 3 hours away, and my brother lives in Philadelphia. My brother-in-law, who's married to my wife's sister, he planted a church in Philadelphia, right in the inner city. So we were there early with that work, and they're still trucking along there, and so they're, we have family out here too. But do pray. Like I'm applying for work. Joel mentioned that. And I don't know, maybe they've listened to my sermons and they don't want to hire me. This guy's talking about Jesus being king. So I'm looking for part-time work. I'm looking for some adjunct professor type positions too. And so if you know of anything, let me know. Yeah.
Two questions. What type of work are you looking for?
Look, at this point, Chick-fil-A will be fine. No, I've done social work. Retail, I worked in a plant making kitchen cabinets years ago. I mean, I baled hay. Yeah. I would love like an online professor job because that would be very compatible with what we're doing and as far as time yeah, I've applied to a lot of different places, office jobs, things like that. I mean,
my second question is in regards to the reconstructionist and the nature of PMR, IRBC, and all these other churches. How did you get involved coming from a Brethren background and
here I am.
there you are in this type of setting?
Yeah.
What took you from there?
I read Greg Bonson and it was over. honestly. I had started to develop relationships with people on Facebook and, different groups, theological groups, and, and you start to learn different ideas and, oh, wait, I've never thought of that. So I became more optimistic in my eschatology in seminary in Philly. And that kind of one thing led to the other. And then I read Greg Bonson's book, By This Standard, and thought, oh my goodness, this is beautiful. I have a testimony of that on Reconstructionist Radio, Setting the Record Straight. I do a monthly podcast there, and that's part of that's on there. But truthfully, don't be afraid of reading maybe outside of your stream a little bit and being challenged. And that's really what it came down to. I was Reformed. I understood Reformed theology. I understood a more optimistic eschatology. I didn't have a good understanding of the law of God. I didn't have a really good understanding of covenantal thinking either. So I started to read those guys. That was like 8 years ago, and it was kind of all downhill from there. Yeah, I grew up watching Rapture movies, fearing for my life. So that's where I came from, and by God's grace, here we are. Yeah. Ah. 6-7 years. Yeah. Yep. Lived right in the city. I was a social worker for a time in the city. Saw some pretty rough stuff there. I can take you anywhere in the city. I know by the back of my hand. Yeah, all over the place. Yeah. All right. Oh, yeah. You went to Philly? I bet I know why you went there. Yeah. It's a nice, yeah, Independence Hall. Yeah, we were out there last year a little bit too. All right. Well, thank you guys. We are humbled as a church to be able to be here, and thanks Joel and John and Seth, and it's an absolute honor. We're going to sing another song.